Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dark Reality, a place where every story hides a truth, darker than you can imagine. Today, we're going to tell you a chilling tale, so stay with us till the end, if you dare. There's a place in Pennsylvania called Raven County. Not many people know it even exists. It's one of those towns that doesn't show up on tourist maps. Quiet, wooded, always covered in mist. But for the people who live there, every foggy night hides something they don't talk about. Emily Rose grew up there, in a farmhouse at the edge of Hollow Road. Her mother, Margaret, raised her alone. Margaret wasn't exactly loved by the neighbors. People whispered she was strange, that she practiced old rituals and spoke to shadows. But Emily never believed the gossip. To her, her mother was just eccentric, until the night she died. When Margaret passed away, Emily was living in Philadelphia. She hadn't seen her mother in almost 8 years. The call came on a Sunday morning. "You need to come home," the sheriff said. "There's something you should see." So, that night, Emily drove 3 hours through rain and thunder, back to the house she'd promised never to return to. She remembered the smell of herbs, the sound of her mother chanting at midnight, the locked basement door she was never allowed to open. Now, as lightning flashed across the road, she saw the sign, "Welcome to Raven County." The old farmhouse stood exactly as she remembered, crooked, wet with rain, the willow tree swaying beside the porch like it was waving her in. The lights were off. Everything was silent. Inside, dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts, furniture covered in white sheets. The air smelled of candle wax and something else, iron, maybe blood. Then she saw it. The living room floor had been dug open, a rough square of dirt right near the fireplace. On it lay a small wooden box sealed with wax. Emily froze. The box wasn't there when she left years ago. She crouched down, running her fingers over the wood. Strange symbols were carved across the lid, triangles, circles, lines that didn't look like any language she knew. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. Someone had recently buried and unearthed it again. The soil was fresh. She whispered to herself, "Mom, what were you doing?" As if in answer, she heard a faint voice behind her, just a breath. "Don't open it." Emily spun around. No one. The candle she'd lit a moment earlier flickered hard, the flame stretching sideways as though pulled by an unseen breath. The wind outside picked up, making the window panes rattle. She stood, staring at that box. Then curiosity won. She melted the wax seal with the candle's flame. A hiss escaped the cracks. The lid lifted with a creak. Inside were 3 things: a black and white photograph of her family, her own face scratched out with something sharp, a lock of dark hair tied with red thread, and a folded note written in her mother's handwriting. She unfolded it. 4 words: "She's not your mother." For a moment, the world tilted. Her mind tried to make sense of it, but the air around her had changed, colder, heavier. The candle went out. Somewhere in the hallway, floorboards creaked slowly. Step by step. Emily whispered, "Hello!" No answer. Then she heard it again, soft breathing behind her ear. She turned sharply, flashlight in hand, beam shaking over the empty room. Nothing. But the box had moved, an inch to the left, as though someone had nudged it. That night she didn't sleep. She sat in her car till morning, engine off, staring at the dark outline of the house. When dawn came, Sheriff Collins arrived. He was a heavy man in his 50s, eyes tired. "Collins, you all right, Miss Rose?" "Emily, what did you mean last night? Something I should see?" He scratched his chin. "We found human DNA in that patch of ground. 2 different sets." Emily blinked. "You're saying someone's buried there?" Collins nodded slowly. "And not recently. Looks like it's been there for decades." He left soon after, promising to send a forensic team. Emily stood in the doorway, staring at the dug-up soil, her mother's words echoing in her head. "She's not your mother." That afternoon, she began searching the house. Drawers, closets, boxes, all full of old papers and herbal mixtures. In her mother's bedside table, she found a journal bound in black leather. Inside, every page was covered in symbols and Latin phrases. But near the end, the handwriting changed, rushed, desperate. "The exchange is weakening. I can feel her waking in the dark. The blood offering must continue. If she returns, Emily will be taken back." Emily slammed the journal shut. Her stomach twisted. She looked around the room. Suddenly, every shadow felt alive. That evening, while trying to rest, she heard tapping from the basement. Soft, rhythmic, like someone drumming their nails against wood. Tap, tap, tap. She followed the sound to the locked door under the stairs. The keyhole was rusted, but there was something shining beneath the frame. She bent down and saw, taped under the edge, a small silver key. Her hands trembled as she unlocked it. The hinges screamed. A wave of cold, damp air rolled out. She descended slowly. The smell hit her first: mold, candle wax, and something rotten. The basement walls were covered in symbols like the ones on the box. In the corner stood a large mirror draped in black cloth. On the floor were melted candles forming a perfect circle. She pulled the cloth from the mirror. At first, it was just her reflection. Then the reflection smiled back, a fraction too late. Emily stumbled backward, heart hammering. The mirror cracked across the center with a sharp ping. For half a second, she saw, behind her own reflection, another woman, same face, older eyes, standing in the dark. Then it was gone. Emily ran upstairs, slamming the door, locking it again. Her phone had no signal. She tried to call Collins, but the line was dead. Thunder rolled outside as rain returned. Upstairs, in her mother's room, she sat on the bed, shaking. Then her eyes fell on an old wooden chest by the window, the one her mother always kept locked. The key from the basement fit perfectly. Inside were dozens of photographs, children, families, all scratched out. Under them, a birth certificate. Emily Margaret Rose, adopted, 1996. Her breath hitched. So it was true. Margaret wasn't her real mother. But then who was? Before she could think further, the bedroom light flickered. The bulb buzzed and burst. Darkness swallowed the room. From somewhere downstairs came a woman's voice. Soft, familiar, calling her name. "Emily, come here." She froze. That was her mother's voice. The same tone, the same accent. But Margaret was dead. "Emily," the voice repeated, sweeter this time. "Don't be afraid." The smell of burning herbs filled the air again. She followed the sound despite herself. Down the hallway, down the stairs, into the living room. The box she had opened earlier now sat in the center of the floor, lid wide open, candlelight flickering around it, though she hadn't lit any candles. And there, sitting beside it, was her mother, or something wearing her mother's face. Pale, eyes entirely black, smiling. Margaret. "Why did you open it, darling?" Emily. "You're dead!" Margaret. "Death means nothing when the deal is broken." Emily stepped back, trembling. "What are you talking about?" Margaret tilted her head, smile widening. "You were never mine. I borrowed you. But the time has come to return what I took." The candles flared, their flames turning blue. The box rattled violently. The air filled with whispers, hundreds of voices chanting her name. Emily covered her ears, screaming. Then everything went silent. When she opened her eyes, her mother was gone. The box lay still. Only one thing had changed. Inside the box, where the photograph had been, was now a small mirror, cracked, faintly glowing. After that horrifying night, something inside Ethan changed. He could still hear those whispers even when he was at home. The voice of an old woman would echo in his mind. "You shouldn't have come here." He stopped eating properly. Dark circles formed under his eyes. His roommate, Luke, got worried. "Bro, what's wrong with you? You look like you haven't slept in days," Luke said one morning. Ethan didn't respond. He just stared at the corner of the room, his eyes fixed as if he could see something there. "Don't you see her?" Ethan asked quietly. "See who?" Luke frowned. "The old woman. She's standing there." Luke turned around, but there was nothing. He thought Ethan was just hallucinating, maybe due to stress. But Ethan's fear was too real. When Ethan opened it, he found faded writing, stories of missing villagers, black magic rituals, and one name repeated over and over: Ilara. The nun had written, "Ilara was not like the others. She refused to harm the innocent. When the coven betrayed her, they buried her alive beneath the graves she tried to protect. Her spirit lingers, guarding the living from the dead." Ethan's heart pounded. "So she was good?" The priest nodded. "Perhaps she was the one who saved you." That night, Ethan couldn't resist. He had to find her grave. He went back alone. The graveyard was colder than before. The air felt thick, like something was waiting for him. The moonlight shone weakly through the clouds as he walked among the tombstones, reading names until he found one half buried under vines. Alara Wren, 1892-1918. He knelt down, brushing off the dirt. "You saved me, didn't you?" he whispered. The ground trembled slightly, and suddenly the air around him shifted. Shadows began to crawl across the grass like liquid smoke. He looked up and saw her again. The old witch, her smile more sinister than ever. "You should not have returned, boy," she hissed. "That priest delayed what is already mine." Ethan stumbled back. "You're lying! Alara stopped you." The witch's laugh echoed like a scream. "Alara was my sister, and she betrayed our blood." Ethan froze. "Your sister?" "She sealed me here with her curse," the witch continued. "And now your soul will free me." The ground split open beneath Alara's grave, black fire spilling out. Ethan screamed as invisible hands grabbed him, pulling him toward the pit. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the grave. A woman in white appeared, not old, but young, glowing softly. Ilara. Her voice was calm but filled with pain. You must finish what I began. Ethan's vision blurred. How? Destroy the mark, she said. The sigil she carved into your skin when you first saw her. Ethan looked down at his forearm, and there it was, faint but visible, a burned-in symbol he had never noticed before. The witch screamed, Don't you dare! Ilara lifted her hand, and for a moment, the night became brighter than day. Ethan took his pocket knife, pressed it against the mark, and whispered, End this. As he cut through the scar, the air filled with a deafening roar. The witch shrieked, twisting into black smoke that was sucked back into the earth. The fire vanished, leaving behind only ashes and silence. Ilara turned to Ethan. You broke the curse. But remember, darkness never truly dies. It waits, in forgotten places. Her form began to fade. Thank you, she whispered. Now I can rest. Ethan dropped to his knees, exhausted. When he opened his eyes again, it was morning. The graveyard looked peaceful, the sunlight warm and golden. For the first time in months, he felt free. But peace never lasts long. If this story sent chills down your spine, then you're already one of us. A seeker of the unseen, a believer in dark reality. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.